Hello everyone. So today we're going to go through a topic called factoring a trinomial where the leading coefficient does not equal 1. So this is a subject of factoring. It's a little bit trickier because the leading coefficient a is not equal to 1, and so we're going to go through how to work with that. So it does not equal 1. So the standard trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So that's our standard equation. That's usually what we base all of these off of. In this case, a is going to be greater than 1. And so that makes it a little bit trickier. And so the example that we're going to go through today is going to be 6x squared plus 11x minus 10. So let me just walk you through a little bit about this topic first before we go through this example. So based on our standard equation of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we're going to use what's called the AC method. And basically what that means is you take a and c and you multiply them together to find the factors of that number that then will add up to b. And so in this case, we'll just walk through it step by step, and then at the very end we'll go through the equation specifically on its own. But in this case, we have that a equals 6 and c equals negative 10. So using the AC method, we're basically going to take 6 and we're going to multiply it by negative 10 to get negative 60. So now we need to find out what factors of negative 60 that then added together gives us 11. Because when we go back up here where we have b, well, in this case, b equals 11. So we're gonna add that to our list. So b equals 11. So now we want to find the factors of negative 60. Well, negative 60 is divisible by positive 15 and negative 4. Well, you can see that positive 15 minus 4 is going to give us 11, because 15 minus 4 equals 11. So in this case, we have found our two factors. Well, now what we want to do using the AC method is we're going to rewrite the middle term that is currently bx as mx plus nx, where m equals, let me write this in red, where m equals 15 and n equals negative 4. So now our equation that was originally ax squared plus bx plus c is now going to transform into ax squared plus mx plus nx plus c. And we basically just plug in our values that we know. So in this case, 6x squared, let me use a different number or a different color here. 6x squared plus 11x minus 10 will transform into 6x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 10. So we've now transformed our equation. So now we're going to use the method of factoring by grouping. So factoring by grouping, factor by grouping. Factor by grouping is basically just saying that you're going to take the first two terms and group them together and the last two terms and group them together. So in our case, we have 6x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 10, and we're gonna group the first two terms together, and we're gonna group the second two terms together, and that is the method of factoring by grouping. And then in this case, now from here, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor from each group. So let's just start with this 6x squared plus 15x. Evaluating both of those, we can see that they both have an x in common. And let's see, so we have a 6 and we have a 15. The factor that both of those share is 3. So we can factor out a 3 and an x out of that. And that's going to leave 2x plus 5. Because if you take 3x out of 6x squared, we're pulling out an x, so that leaves an x behind. But 3 times 2 will give us our 6 back. And in the case of 15x, when we pull out an x, we're not left with any more x's there, but 15 divided by 3 is 5. So that's how we got 2x plus 5. Now let's focus on the negative 4x minus 10, our second group. So in this case, we can see that they both have a negative in common, so we can pull out a negative, and they both have a factor of 2 in common, right? So because 4 is divisible by 2 and 10 is divisible by 2, so we're going to pull out a 2 in this case. And that leaves us with 2x, and since we pulled out the negative out of the negative 10, this is going to turn positive, and that leaves us with 5 there. So now we have negative 2 times 2x plus 5 as our factor on our second group. So now, continuing on, we have the factorization. So if you've done this correctly, you should have a common binomial factor. In this case, our common binomial factor is 2x plus 5, because we have one here and we have one here. So now we can actually just factor that out of our trinomial and finalize our fully factored form. So we're going to go back to blue. And then we're going to pull out the 2x plus 5. So we have 2x plus 5 here. Since that's what we have in common, we only need it once. And then we're going to take this 3x and this minus 2, and that's the rest of our factored form. That's the next group, so 3x minus 2. And that is our fully factored trinomial that with a leading coefficient that is not equal to 1. So in summary, we've basically used what's called the AC method. So you multiply A and C together. You figure out what is a factor of that number that then added together will give you B, in this case gives us 11. And then you'll rewrite your middle term of bx to mx plus nx and transform your equation. And then from there, you'll simply factor by grouping, and you'll factor out your greatest common factor again to finalize your trinomial in your fully factored form. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and don't hesitate to ask. All right, have a great day.